must think I got a really big ass. Okay, so everybody can find a seat. I'm so glad. I'm so proud of you guys for getting up this early in the morning.
No fire alarm.
Yeah, who started the fire? Oh, come on.
Nobody knows. I blame Pyro back there.
Hi, welcome to MAGFext. Welcome to my panel. I'm John Patrick Lowrie, voice of the sniper on Team Fortress 2, and I'm on Halo Reach and Halo ODST and Half-Life 2 and DOTA 6. Half-Life 2, hello citizen, morning citizen. I love playing Half-Life 2. I play Half-Life 2 all the time because, of course, I'm always glad to see me. I don't know if you've ever played this game. Like, Gordon Freeman, oh, you're great. Oh, day saved. And of course, my wife is always trying to get me arrested. You are malignant, you are going to be arrested. And, you know, so it's very weird. I don't know. It's a question and answer. Do you guys have questions, or do you want me to just chat for a while? Yes, sir.
Yeah, why don't you chat for a while?
Yeah, okay.
Of all the games that you've been in, like which ones do you try to play any, like all of them, or do you only play them a few?
Well, I'm a Mac guy, so I can only, you know, I'm not going to go out and buy a PlayStation and all that kind of stuff. So I have all the Halo games that I've been in, but I've never gotten to play them. I've watched other people play them. But you know, when they're playing them, they're not going to let me play them. Have you ever tried to interrupt somebody playing Halo and say, hey, could you give me a try? It just doesn't happen.
If you interrupt someone playing him, it's not
Yeah, I know. You can lose a hand. But the ones I play mostly are Half-Life 2. I played Team Fortress 2 a little bit, but I'll tell you that game. I mean, you know, when I got into it, it's like, holy crap! I'm moving at the speed of light, and I can't figure out what I'm doing, which ends up, and so I still have to figure that one out.
You have to play the heavy, not the scout.
All right. Well, I just have to figure it out. I mean, I've tried to take classes, and I think I've gotten through one basic class, and I don't know. I could get the classes, but as soon as you get to the gameplay, it's like it's just so fast that I don't know what I'm doing. And then I played the Portal games, of course, because I just like being abused by my wife. Played a little bit of Left 4 Dead, which is a lot of fun. But then, you know, I mean, Infamous and Matrix Online and Lord of the Rings, War in the North, you know, all those guys, they're all on PC, so they're, I can't. Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about your history of your career and how you got into the business and what your career path has been like?
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, my career path has been really weird. I left home when I was 16, slept in communes for a couple of years, then I got drafted. I decided I wanted to be a composer, so I went to the Indiana School of Music, Indiana University, formed a kind of a jazz fusion duo in the late 70s and early 80s, and we released that album and opened for some pretty famous people, Buddy Rich and Thad Jones and folks like that. Did pretty well, and then my partner kind of fell off the face of the earth into a bottle of Jack Daniels and was never seen again. And I was offered a job playing guitar and banjo in a pit orchestra of a European tour of the Broadway show Showboat.
Oh, cool.
And I got to Holland. Arnhem, Holland was where the tour started, and all the actors had been there for 3 weeks rehearsing. And to kind of set up the scene for you, it's like 30 people in the cast, all of whom liked men. And when the musicians got there, it was fun. And there was a young woman that the conductor wanted to introduce me to because I had to accompany her in the second act. She was, or not, there's one part of Magnolia who plays the guitar for herself in the second act, but it's a Jerome Kern tune. I mean, it's a jazz tune. It's not like Red River Valley. It's a real tune. And this actress was very dedicated. She bought herself a guitar and had been practicing for 2 months. But I mean, it was she'd never played the guitar before. And so the conductor took me over to the theater and said, listen, I want you to introduce you to her, and she's here in the canteen. And she was there, and she said, yeah, this is Ellen McLain. She's playing Magnolia. And this is what she said to me. When I first got here, I memorized the first names of the major characters, then I memorized the last names of the major characters, then I memorized the first names of the chorus, then I memorized the last names of the chorus. Now I'm going to memorize the first names of the orchestra, and then the last names of the orchestra. And I thought, this woman is insane. But actually, the very first thing that she said to me was, have they told you how pitiful I am? Because she's been working in the rehearsal trying to play this piece on the guitar. Well, we had one guitar lesson. And I just got the feeling she wasn't paying attention to the guitar all that much. And so the guitar lessons didn't work out, but we ended up getting married. And we had this whirlwind courtship all across the continent. It was very romantic. We didn't know if we were ever going to see each other again. We fell in love. We both of us were involved with people back in the States. It was just soap opera. But we eventually got together, and all that worked out. But at that time, I was still focused on being a composer. And as a matter of fact, right now, a piece for orchestra that I've written is being looked at by Seattle Symphony. So wish me luck on that. But when I was over in Europe, I found out, the actors were getting paid more than the musicians, which is just my luck, because if you're a musician with a Broadway show on tour in the States, the musicians are probably getting more than the actors, at least the basic chorus contract. And all the actors are getting more than the musicians. So, I was down there in the pit saying, well, I could do that. And I was playing guitar and banjo, and there was this one character who went back to New York, who was playing Captain Andy, and who was, supposed to be older than I was at the time. I was like 32. But everybody else there was like 21. And they didn't, and when he went back, I said, well, you need to do an understudy for Captain Andy. And I could do it because Captain Andy never sings. I mean, I could play guitar and banjo backstage, they go out and tell some jokes, and they, yeah, right, whatever. And so I just kept nagging, and then finally I shaved the middle of my beard so that I looked like I had mutton chops. And they finally said, okay, we'll give you a shot. So I auditioned, and they said, okay, you got the job. And I thought, okay, now I'm going to get an actor's pay. Well, no, they just kind of paid me a little stipend above my musician's pay, which helped a little bit. But so we closed in Graz, Austria, and had a week off, and we're going to open in Palermo, Sicily. And everybody could get down there any way they wanted to. Some people just went with the tour. I went down, on my own. But anyway, I got to Palermo and found out that the drummer, who had been pissed off at the producers the whole tour, had just gone home and didn't tell anybody. And so we had to open that night, and we didn't have a drummer. So the conductor came up to me and said, hey, Johnny, have you ever played, traps? I said, well, yeah, I play traps. Okay, well, great. So we were wandering around the basement of this 18th century Sicilian opera house looking for a hi-hat and a kick drum, a kick bass. And we found those, miraculously. So the rest of it was, so I had my banjo here, I had my guitar over here, I had, the orchestra bells here, the chimes here, and, the drum set in front of me, and I go, strum, ding, 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 and it was pretty wild. So that's what I was doing in Palermo, and then the guy who was playing Frank got sick, and the guy who used to play Frank was now playing Captain Andy, and the guy who was now understudying Frank decided to make a grandstand play and say, I'm not going to play Frank unless you guarantee me like 2 performances a week or something like that. And they said, take a hike, and we'll have the new guy now playing Captain Andy go back and play Frank, and we'll pull John out of the pit to play Captain Andy, and we'll have the second violist take over on the traps. So this is what touring in Europe is like.
It's a non-union tour, right? So.
Right, yeah, Europe, all bets are off, that's right. And so, after I did that, I went on, and it was fine, and everybody after that, they wanted me to do a one-man show, play all the parts, and play the orchestra and stuff like that. So that was my first acting gig, was telling jokes to a bunch of Sicilians who didn't speak English. It was very funny. Then we came back to the States, and Ellen and I got married, and we moved to, she had been in New York, and I moved to New York to be with her. She was burnt out, she didn't want to stay there, so we moved out to Seattle. And really the first voice stuff that I did, Ellen and I both worked at an NPR station, WFIU, in Bloomington, Indiana, just being DJs. And, and they asked us to record some very funny commercials for various NPR shows and stuff like that. And when I went out to Seattle, I tried to get an agent. I did get an agent and put a voice tape together. And by that time, I was in Actors Equity and I was doing theater and stuff like that. The voice work at the time, and on camera work at that time, you were doing, occasionally a TV show here and there, a movie here and there, but mostly commercial work and what they call industrial videos and stuff like that. But about 1995, we started getting auditions for video games. And at that time, this was back in the days of dinosaurs. It was really a steampunk world. You had to actually go down to recording studios to audition. You'd have an appointment. You go down there, and all the voice actors in town were all lined up, and you go in and read all these characters, and they put them on great big reels of tape, like, inch-wide tape, and mail them off to the client, who would then listen to them and think about it and get back. And the whole process took a couple of months. But also, you got to meet all the voice actors in town, because you were always going to auditions together. But I auditioned for, what was the first one? I think, first one was either Betrayal at Antara or what was it? Spy Fox breakfast cereal, which was epic. But I got the gigs and I started getting gigs, and because it was very funny at that time, these folks had no idea what to do with actors. There were, all the people that were designing games were about 4 years old, and just computer whizzes, and they had no idea what to do with this. I went in to it was hilarious. I went to do the Betrayal at Antara game, and when they gave us kind of some animation of what the just pictures of what the scenes looked like and what the characters looked like, and I thought, okay, well I'll do kind of a Sean Connery thing. Because it looks kind of English, stuff like that. And when I got out to this was a Sierra Online. I don't know if you guys remember that company.
Yep.
Sierra Online. And there's two guys. Well, we'll talk about that later. But I got out to the gig, and the writers weren't even there. There's just some people there with, and they had the lines, and there was just lines, just my lines, nobody else's lines. I didn't know who I was talking to, what I was responding to. And so I would start asking, why am I saying this? Because, you write WHAT question mark. How would you say that here? How would you say that? WHAT question mark.
Emily.
Okay, now you.
Why? What?
See, there's about 1 million different ways to say it, depending on what, you can say, what? What? You can say, what? I mean, it's all kinds, so you have no idea. And so I'd ask them, well, why am I saying this? And they had to call up the writers and get back to me. And there was this one time I said, okay, the line was goodbye, son. I said, why am I saying goodbye? And I don't know, call up the writers, talk up the writers. Okay, so this is the place where the game branches. And your son is either going to go like down the street and buy some ham, or he's going to go through this interdimensional portal into another universe and you're never going to see him again.
Yeah.
So can you say goodbye so it would work either way?
No.
And I thought for a minute and I said, goodbye, son. Yeah, that's great. That'll work fine. So it was hilarious. But that was that. And it was really interesting watching the design teams figure out who needed to be at the recording sessions. Writers would be a good idea. And B, really figuring out how to work with actors, because pretty soon, by the time I was doing, even Total Annihilation, at least that was, yay, because they're coming, did you see the new, they're coming out?
Yes.
That's very exciting. But that was at least a long speech, because I have to tell you a story about that. So I'm a Mac guy. Total Annihilation comes out on PC, you can't watch it. But my brother's getting married again, and his son my nephew has a PC. So well, we'll go down and I'll give him Total Annihilation. And we'll finally get to see how it works and what it's about. And so we go down there and this is like 97 or something like that. We give him the Total Annihilation. He sticks the CD in the CD-ROM player. It takes about an hour and a half to load and stuff like that. And finally we're ready to play the game, And the lights go down, and there's a picture of a galaxy. My voice comes on, 4,000. And he's going, escape, escape, escape. He doesn't want to listen to the narration. He wants to get into the gameplay. And Ellen goes, wait a minute, I want to hear that. This is literally what he did. He looks at his hand and he goes, and starts over again. So my nephew really appreciates me. But by the time I was doing things like No One Lives Forever and The Suffering, the writers were in there. They were always telling me who I was talking to, what kind of environment I was in, what the noise level was. Am I in a battle or am I in a room, am I outside, all this kind of stuff. And so it started getting a lot better. But really, my career in games grew up with the gaming industry in Seattle. And we've gone through quite a few companies there. The biggest ones are Seattle, Sierra Online, which is no longer there, Humongous, which is no longer there, and they're no longer anywhere. And then Monolith came along, and Valve, and Bungie, and there are about 150 games companies in Seattle. Only probably 20 of those use actors. A lot of games are just, solitaire and stuff like that. But does that give you kind of an overview of how I got into it? So it's really, if you guys are interested in getting into voice work, learn how to act, get yourself a voice demo, and get yourself an agent. And audition. So, yeah, yes sir.
So out of all of your projects, which would you say is your favorite and then why? Out of video game work.
Well, I really like the sniper because he's just such a wonderful, asshole. He likes his work and he's serious about it, and he gets a little bit involved, gets a little emotional, and tends to insult people after he's killed them and stuff like that, but you can't really blame him. And doing Meet the Sniper was a wonderful opportunity to just flesh a character out like that. I think the other favorite character that I did was Harold Keegan in Fear, yeah. Where, Harold Keegan was this kind of, real gruff, professional soldier guy who gets infected with this kind of drug thing that's in the plant, and he falls in love with a hallucination. And to have this really tough, no-nonsense soldier just become totally
Nuts.
head over heels in love with this woman that he could never have, this hallucination, was a very fun thing. The other fun thing I remember, all the stuff at Valve is great because the guys are hilarious and the lines are great. The stuff that I've done for DOTA 2 is just bunches of fun. But there's a character in Halo ODST. Have you guys played that?
Yeah.
And it's one of those kind of flashback things that you hear over the radio or something like that. And I played this, just horrifically horrible South African rapist dude.
Dr. Kinsler.
Yeah, right. Who eventually gets ripped limb from limb by an angry mob. And that's where, that's where I really, of course, I'm just the kind of guy, whatever I'm doing, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing it 110% because that's just, I'm there. And I don't care if it's Shakespeare or a video game or playing the banjo or whatever I am. That's just what I'm doing. And these guys that make the games are very serious about it. And I think that, I've gotten calls, a lot of people have problems recruiting talent in LA because a lot of the voice talent is so used to doing commercial work that they're really, they get into a sound studio and they're expected to be devoured by a space spider and they don't really commit to it, I found out that, if you can scream like you're really getting ripped limb from limb by an angry mob, they eat that stuff up. But it's just, really all it is acting. It's just coming in and really committing to the scenario and knowing who your character is and doing it. And there was one time, Oh yeah, I was recording for I think Lord of the Rings, War in the North, and I was some orc guy, and I said some line that just scared the shit out of the people in the recording studio. I mean, it's like, it was just, you know what I mean, I didn't say it loud or anything like that, I just said it really mean. And it's always fun to actually take the writers off guard, because they're the ones that write the line. When you say it to where they kind of jump, it's a lot of fun. And really a lot of the stuff at Monolith has been fun. I mean, the Lord of the Rings game was fun, and Fear was great fun. And then the other one was Infamous. That had a lot of good stuff in it too. Yeah, yes sir, back there.
Are you doing anything else with your writing career? Are you looking at writing another book, or are you just going to leave it at one?
Oh no, I'm working on the second book. Now my publisher is crawling all over me. You know, they're doing everything but offering me in advance. So yeah, second book is in the works. Yes, ma'am.
Is it in the same universe or different?
No. So I don't know if you guys know, but I released a science fiction novel last September, which I will be selling downstairs if you want to come by and visit me at my table, called Dancing with Eternity. And that is set in a universe about 2,000 years from now, where the big thing is they figured out how to technologically prevent all people from dying no matter what happens to them. And I thought about that, about writing another novel in that universe. And I thought, you know, if I do that, I'm going to have to spend like the first third of the book bringing everybody up to speed on all this technology that I invented that served the story that I was telling in that book. And I still might do that. I still might go back and write more in that universe. But the one that I'm working on now, which has a working title of Swimming in the Higgs Field, but I don't know if that will stay there, is set in a more immediate, really dystopian, immediate future kind of thing, but where they figure out a way to go to alternate universes. And me being a musician, I have kind of a unique take on particle physics, because when I took acoustical physics in college, it all made complete sense to me, being a guitarist, tuning strings to each other, hearing beat frequencies, and figuring out that photons really are just beat frequencies. It gave me a unique grasp of how vibrations can be physical things, and so I'm very comfortable with string theory and thinking that all of us are just kind of humming along with the universe. But that's it's a completely different idea, and I just wanted to do that first, and then I may go back. But this idea may be something that can set up sequels and stuff like that. So, publishing biz, yay! Yes, ma'am.
What was your inspiration to write the book, Dancing with Eternity?
Well, a couple of things. One thing. Now, have you read the book?
I've read half of it.
Okay, cool. The biggest inspiration for it was a trip that I took from Seattle to North Carolina. Seattle's where Ellen and I live, and North Carolina's where her family, where her father's from, and stuff like that. And to travel from this, ecotopian, militant, lesbian, feminist universe in Seattle to the buckle of the Bible Belt in North Carolina, it really struck me that we could live in the same country and eat at the same fast food restaurants and watch the same TV shows and go from one part of the country to another part of the country and not really be able to have a conversation that went beyond, hi, how are you, nice weather we're having, because there are so many unshared assumptions and unshared concepts. And at the time, SETI was in the news, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and I thought, man, how are we going to talk to anybody out, orbiting another star when we can't even talk to people in the same country? And so that my mind kind of works in jokes. And so I thought, okay, I want to take a trip through the galaxy where most of the aliens we meet are us. And so that's kind of the main inspiration. Yes, sir.
who is your favorite hero, super literary or whatever, which hero would you like to voice and how would you interpret it?
Like in doing voice work, I mean.
Anything really. Like someone says you get to voice any superhero you would like to voice. Who would you voice and how would you interpret it?
Boy, that's an interesting question. A lot of favorite heroes. I'd love to do, I forget the actual name, but the Gnome de Guerre of Jack Kerouac in On the Road. I think, as far as, so, well, I mean, fantasy heroes, I mean, I love doing Gandalf. There's a young actress who's, I was working with, was like 12, and she would make me go up to McDonald's and order McFlurries in Gandalf's voice.
Can you do that?
What's that?
Can you do that right now?
We would like an Oreo McFlurry. And then I'm not trying to rob you. I'm trying to order from you. So, there we go. Let's see. I mean, there have been some really wonderful heroes. I'd love to. Boy, that's just such an interesting question. I've gotten to play some interesting parts, particularly on stage. I tend to not be drawn to heroes so much as irascible buttheads. They're just a lot more fun. Although,
like Deadpool?
I mean, I'm sorry?
Like Deadpool?
Like Deadpool? I don't know that reference, I'm sorry.
Oh, he's a superhero from Marvel.
Oh, okay.
He's kind of crazy. He's aware that he's in a comic book.
He's an anti-hero.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, of course, from my age, it would be like Silver Surfer or something like that. Yeah. But I mean, Marvel heroes to me are very interesting. I think that they're now I know we'll probably get lots of angry letters on this, but I tend to like the Marvel movies better than the DC movies because, well, I mean, DC started first. I mean, Superman came first and Batman came first. And these guys came out of the 30s and 40s, Depression era, war era, where we really were looking for pure good guys.
Sometimes you can't get rid of the bomb.
I'm sorry?
Sometimes you just can't get rid of a bomb.
That's right. And by the time Marvel came along in the 60s, their idea was to make these guys a lot more psychologically complex. And so I think that, they just started off when they were making movies, they had a much better chance of coming up with cool, interesting movies. And it's been interesting to me watching like the Batman movies get more psychological. When you went back, and of course you guys are probably too young, but when the first Batman movies came out in the 80s, they were they were certainly comic books, but when like Spidey came out and stuff like that, the Tobey Maguire one, it's like all of a sudden, okay, well, we have real people involved here. And so I think that DC is pretty much caught up by now, and the new Superman preview that I've seen looks pretty interesting as far as that goes. But when I write a hero, I mean a main character, protagonist, I like to make sure that they got lots of warts and lots of flaws and stuff like that, because we are, all of us human beings are, the thing that makes us interesting in texture is that we don't do things very well. I like to say that human beings don't do things well, they do things well enough. Whenever we do something better than it absolutely has to be done, we call it art. Yes, sir?
Yes, so you do radio plays, which I think is awesome, because I listened to them ever since I was a kid, but they're not very big in the United States. So how did that come to fruition?
There's a man named Jim French in Seattle who... Yes, sir?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Jim French, I've actually known that he voiced in an indie game called Gunman Chronicles, and that's where I heard it from.
Well, and also he's
Yeah, I know.
he's the Russian priest in Half-Life 2. He's
Bill from Left 4 Dead.
in Left 4 Dead, right?
Yep.
Right? So yeah, I mean, he's done a lot of work for Val, and yeah, I mean, you know his voice. But he's this old guy. I mean, he's like, 80 billion years old. I mean, truly, he is truly like 82 or something like that now. But he, so he grew up with radio dramas. I mean, he was listening to them when he was a kid, and he always loved them. And back in the 70s, he started writing this kind of film noir detective guy called Harry Nile, and started putting them together and added, hired actors and started doing them. And my friend Larry Albert, who was working for him for a while, noticed that he had written a Sherlock Holmes script. And he read it and said, this is pretty good, we ought to do it. And so we started doing Sherlock Holmes too. And I forget who, somebody actually recommended me to Jim, and he called me up and had me in. And at first, the first Sherlock Holmes, another guy was doing it, who the guy has passed on now, but and they had me come in and be the BBC announcer, with the further adventures of Sherlock Holmes, starring this person, that person. I'm very British and all that sort of thing. And I got to play a lot of great, clients and bad guys and all kinds of fun stuff. And then when John decided to retire, they asked me to take over Sherlock, and I've been doing that ever since. And I've done, I think, like 135 episodes. Most of them are the further adventures, which are all new scripts. But we are now trying to do the entire canon of the original stories too. We've got a great 3-volume, 3-hour set of Hound of the Baskervilles and a lot of the original short stories. But it was great because when the interwebs came on the scene, Sherlock went out over the internet, and all these Sherlock Holmes fanatics started looking for Sherlock Holmes anything, and we started getting this rep all over the world. And now Jim writes very few of the scripts anymore. Most of the scripts are written by people in England, and so that's a lot of fun. I like to go over to London every once in a while, and the writers get together with us at the Sherlock Holmes Tavern in London. It's very fun. It's just like big time, like we're actually making money out of it. But it's radio drama. We don't make any money out of it. It's fun. And you can hear it on, I think, Sirius XM and stuff like that. But and the fun thing that we are one of like 2 or 3 for-profit companies doing radio dramas now, and the other 2 don't bother to get the actors together in a room. We hire all local actors, and we rehearse together in the room, and then we record it in the room, and you can really tell the difference. When you have one guy reading his lines in LA, and they get all those lines down, and then you have the other guy in Chicago reading his lines, and they've never talked to each other. It sounds like it, and so I hope you look it up. It's on. You can go online, imaginationtheater.com, and you can usually stream the latest episode and stuff like that. So yeah, but it's a very unusual thing. We do a live 6 times a year, every other month, at Kirkland Performance Center out there. So if you're ever out in the Northwest, check it out. See if we're performing, because we have live sound effects guys there doing all the sound effects, the steps and the doors and all that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of fun. Yes, Ben.
I know as far as acting on stage, there's so many different aspects of it, and your voice is obviously a big one. But do you see a marked difference between your ability to incorporate your voice into the character as compared to other actors who are stage actors and not voice actors?
Well, yeah. I mean, when you do voice acting, the thing that first strikes you and what you start getting feedback from good directors about is that, okay, you don't have your body to use. There's nothing, you can't go, ah! You're just standing in front of a microphone. You're not interacting with the set or anything. And so the great thing about doing radio drama is you get a lot of experience making sure, okay, if I'm getting up out of a chair, I need to, all right, let's go. Just do something to let the listener know that physical activity is happening. And, we've done some fun things on Sherlock Holmes. We've had fights and all kinds of things, running upstairs and, hanging off of bell steeples and, all kinds of great stuff. And you have to do that all with your voice. And the other thing is that when you're on a set, whether it's a movie set or a stage set, that really gives you a lot of support as an actor, to put you in the scene. And when you're doing a radio drama, at least you have the whole story and you're getting the people talking to you, and you get it flowing like that. But when you're doing a game, it's all on you. If you're in a battle right now, okay, well, you have to be in a battle right now, and you can either pretend to be in a battle or you can act like you're in a battle, and that's two completely different things. And I've worked with people who are pretending, and you suck. It's awful, and it's like bad B movie, 50s science fiction movie acting. Oh, and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean it's. So I think that it really kind of separates the people who really know how to do it from the people who are just kind of futzing around. Yeah. Yes, sir.
With a game like Dota 2, where you get to play like 6 of the main characters, 7.
Don't forget Punch.
Like when you have that many roles, do you tend to lean towards a certain one as like a favorite out of all of them, or do you just love each of them individually?
Well, no, I mean, I think you have to. I mean, I think what Storm Spirit and Gludge are particularly lovable. But I love, I mean, of course I don't remember all the names of them now because there's so many, but I mean, we did, I mean, it's really wild things in my voice. I think the main challenge with doing a lot of characters in one game is coming up with different voices that are markedly different from each other that still have character and range. Because if you set your voice up here, you only have so much you can do, and if you set your voice down here, So to come up with something that differentiates them, but still has a full emotional range, that can be a challenge. I think I did 13 characters on The Suffering. And of course, back then, what they did, and I did them all in one session. And so, by character number 11, 12, it's like, okay, let's see, Brooklyn? No, I've done that. Connecticut? Where's this guy from? Speed up, slow down, all this kind of stuff. But then the funniest thing is, to save your voice, they save all the dying for the end of the session. So you've come up with 13 different voices, and now you have to scream as each of them. Okay, well, the difference between screaming with a Bronx accent and screaming with a Southern accent is not really all that different. So that can be very challenging. Yes.
What would you say the most marketable thing a voice actor can do for themselves? Like, what makes a voice actor attractive to a company or an agency?
Well, if it's a gaming company, it's all about the acting. And if you're a good actor, then they'll use you. But gaming is only part of voice acting, and a lot of it's just buy this stuff. It's good stuff. You can believe me because I have a low voice. And so that kind of thing is. But I'll tell you, a lot of people talk to me about getting into voice acting, and they say, well, you have such a beautiful voice, and I'll tell them, you can't count the number of auditions that I've gotten where it says, we don't want anyone announcery. And they're really looking for, most of when you look at the commercials on TV, we have very few commercials anymore that really have announcers. Hey, this is a great deal, come on down, and even the old Sunday, big boys get down the mud, that stuff is kind of gone. And we have, kind of regular old folks saying, I like this feminine hygiene spray because I'm a guy, but I just like it,
I like it, I'm being paid.
But I would say, the best thing you can do if you want to do voice acting is learn how to act. The next best thing you can do is to be in a place where they do that kind of stuff.
Not here.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think DC. I don't know. I know Atlanta. There's a lot of work. In Texas, there's a lot of work. In LA, there's a lot of work. In New York, Chicago, and Seattle, there's a lot of work. And those are the places I know about, and probably in the Bay Area, there's a lot of work. But that's, you know, I mean, it's everybody tells you it's a hard field to break into. It is, I won't kid you. But I'll tell you, I beat up Ellen for 8 years to get a voice demo. And she was all like, oh, no, I don't have the right kind of voice. No, men get most of the work. I'm a woman. I wouldn't. No, it's like, and, you know, and now she's a way bigger star than I am, so it pisses me off. Yes, ma'am.
You've done so much stuff with science fiction and fantasy. Was there anything like movies, TV that you grew up with that kind of pushed you in that direction for science fiction that you really enjoyed?
Oh, well, you know, it's like, why do people get drawn to science fiction? And I don't know what it was. I mean, my dad was an electrical engineer. He read science fiction. But, you know, when I was a kid, I mean, Forbidden Planet, Destination Moon, you know, I was like George Lucas. I just wanted them all to be better. You know, I just wanted the aliens to be cooler and the spaceships to be cooler. But I mean, I remember, you know, I'm watching the Flash Gordon serials and Buck Rogers serials where the rocket, you know, with the smoke going up and the sparks going down and stuff like that. Have you guys ever seen Flash Gordon?
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. I mean, it's this kind of soft porn, but it's a parody of the, and they do this wonderful stuff. Like, of course, the rocket ship is shaped like a penis, you know, has a but and it has a head. It's very fun. But when it goes across the screen, it goes like this, and the smoke goes up, and the sparks go down, and it twirls around, and finally lands on the planet, and the door opens up, and Professor Jackoff gets out. And goes, good, there's oxygen on this planet. And, it's really very funny stuff. And there's this one woman who's in the underground who's some buxom porn star, and she has one metal leg and a hook on one hand and a patch over one eye and a patch over one boob. And it's just very, very funny stuff. So. But then I met my friend Bobby Owens, who introduced me to Andre Norton and Robert Heinlein. And this was in grade school, and all their books were in the school library, and so I read all those books. And by the time I hit junior high school, I was reading, Clifford Simak and Ova and Samuel Delaney and Zelazny and on and on. And of course, when 2001 came out, it was my favorite film of all time because I was a hard science fiction guy. I wanted things to work the way they work and not fudge around. And of course, I loved Twilight Zone when I was growing up. But and of course, when it was a space one, it was even cooler. But it's like there's always this longing that that you can see like alien planets, really aliens that look like the aliens in movies now. Because they just didn't have the money back then. And I mean, Serling was great at coming up with stories where he could film them out in the Mojave Desert and call it an asteroid. But then it turns out not to be an asteroid. They're actually on Earth the whole time, or something like that. But it was just this longing that, oh man. And then Outer Limits came on, and it was more science fiction-y, but it was still cheap, And then, of course, you guys don't know this, but back in the day, back in the 60s, they'd have Friday night movies where they'd have science fiction or horror films on, that you just watch every Friday night. And they were all awful. The horror films weren't scary, the science fiction films weren't very good, but, things like Them and, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, occasionally something good would come out. And there's a movie that I've been looking for years. If you guys ever find it, email me or get a hold of me on my website or something like that. It's called The Crack in the World, and it's this Dana Andrews epic about an earthquake that opens up a fissure, and the fissure is spreading, going around the entire world, and the world's going to break in half at the end of the movie. And I haven't been able to find it anywhere. So I don't know. Does that answer your question? Cool. Yes, sir.
Going on from bad science fiction and horror movies,
What do you think of Mystery Science Theater 3000?
Oh man, they find the wonderfully worst movies in the world. There's this one that I can't remember the name of it, and you guys might know it. It's like filmed in the early 80s, like all these guys with disco haircuts and stuff like that. It was on a space station, and all this, you know, innuendo and really bad, this guy's, you know, dancing, hey baby, it's like that. And it culminated in this chase scene of golf carts. You know,
Space Mutiny!
Space Mutiny!
That's
it!
They're going on at like, you know, 3 miles an hour, this wild chase scene.
The speeds of 7.
We place our trust in glass big heart cheese.
Big, mid, large, huge.
Yeah, no, those guys are great. Well, of course, and in Boulder, in 1969, there was an underground radio station that you could turn on the Friday night science fiction movie or horror film, but turn down the volume and tune to that radio station, and they would just make up an entire new movie.
Right there on the spot.
Yeah, right. And then, of course, you know, they were just, you know, stoned out of their gills, and it was just really hilarious stuff because they would just make up a new movie, and it was very funny. Yes, sir.
Just real quick, just checked Amazon. Cracking the World is available both for instant download and for DVD copy.
Oh, great!
Yeah.
So, Cracking the World and Space Mutiny. I got to write these down. Yes, sir.
Do you ever record from home, or do you find it's preferable to always get in the studio?
Well, I mean, I'm in the union, so fortunately, the gigs that I get, they want me to go down to a studio. I've had some non-union people ask me to do things, and I mean, and back in the day, I tried it once, but they only pay you for the voice work. They don't pay you to engineer it. And engineering, it takes like 3 times as long as the voice work. And it's like you have all this stress, oh God, is this good enough? And it's like, I don't want to, you know, be putting together a final project. I know people, friends of mine that are non-union that do that, and it's like more power to them, but it's, I don't want to spend my time doing that. Yeah, wait a minute.
Yeah, is there any limitations being in the union to self-promotion?
To what now?
Self-promotion?
No, not at all. No, just shamelessly self-promote. Yeah. I think that, but you know, I mean, most people that are in the biz now have their own websites and stuff like that. But really, I think that, and I'm not a real good self-promoter. I mean, I don't care about commercial work that much. I just, you know, but you know, the guys that I know people, I mean, men and women that I know who do a lot of self-promotion, most of what they're getting is commercial work. What I found as far as doing games is you get a rep in the game community, and people know your work because, you know, people who work for one game company are checking out the games from all the other companies, and so they know who's working. Yeah.
When the differences between like books and movies and video games, how video game like Amnesia, you're immersed as the protagonist and you play through, you know, through this perspective. But which medium would you prefer to convey like a storyline?
Well, I think that each has their own cool things. I think, I mean, the thing that interactive games did was change storytelling forever. I mean, you have this new way of telling stories where the player tells the story by making his own decisions, which I think is incredible, and I think that a lot of people find it incredible because we're moving to a more and more interactive world. Am I running out of time?
Still got 13 minutes.
13 minutes? Okay, cool. But you know, a lot of people get upset when a movie isn't like the book and stuff like that, and I really never do. I'm comfortable with the fact that movies are movies and books are books. You can do things in books that you really can't get away with doing in movies. You can do things in movies that it's impossible to do in books. And Chet Falzak and Eric Wolpaw and all those guys, to interact with them. I mean, they're setting up scenes, and they know that the story is basically going to go one way because they can't afford to put out infinite numbers of scenarios. But they're really just coming up with scenes where the player is going to be the main character and make the decisions. And coming up with stories. When you think of the idea that they came up with for Portal, where the main character is an artificial intelligence who has developed a snarky personality. I mean, this is a wonderful thing because the story is all about what the player does and the interactions that you find. I mean, what I found, because I know a lot of actors who do television and movies, and the kind of fan interaction they have is completely different from the kind of fan interaction that I have. Because fans go to movies and watch Tom Cruise tell them a story for 2 hours, and it's very cool, and they want to meet Tom Cruise, and that's very cool. But when somebody meets me, they've been trying to kill me, and I've been trying to kill them for maybe hundreds of hours. They really spend a lot of time, and there's this kind of intimacy where you actually you don't get to make decisions in movies. You know, you get to walk around in this world, and I know you guys are sophisticated enough to know this is not true, but I always get the feeling that, and I would have the same feeling, is that somebody who worked at a game, who voiced a character in a game, actually gets to live in this world that the players only get to see through a computer screen. And they know, you know, it's not true, but it's kind of true, you know? And I think that there is a wonderful, I mean, what I love about computer games is it's like an alternate universe that's actually been created for me, just so that I can have fun. So I would say that there are advantages to each medium.
Well, what I was thinking about is the difference between being in being immersed in a video game where you see it, it's like an absolute atmosphere, and getting the feel of like 1984 or something.
Well, I think that in something like a movie or a video game, pretty much everything but the way it smells is given to the viewer. In something like a radio play or a book, a lot more is left up to the imagination of the person listening or reading. And so I think that I'd hate to lose books. I'd hate to lose radio plays, because I think the kind of thinking that you do when you are reading a great science fiction novel or any novel, you're supplying all the scenery, you're supplying how the people look, you're supplying how the clothes look. And I think that's a particular kind of creative thinking that reading inspires, where movies don't, but interestingly games seem to. Because people put their, people come up with fan art. I mean, I can't tell you how impressed Ellen and I are by all the fan art that we get from people. They want to expand these universes and create their own parts. And that's why I think that particularly the way Valve does things, where they open up all their software, all their
the source.
Yeah, the source material, so that you can create your own levels and stuff like that. I mean, that's great. That's what I think is going to make the 21st century probably the most creative century ever. So, yes, sir.
I work at the Outback Steakhouse, and I've always wanted to hear the sniper do a promo for Outback Steakhouse. Right.
Outback Steakhouse. I'll kill it, you eat it. Now, if that's on the air, I'm suing you, okay? Yes, sir.
Now, along the lines of which superhero would you want to be, is there a specific video game series or TV movie series you'd like to be a part of?
Well, I'm an actor. Show me a contract and I'll sign it. But I really enjoyed Battlestar Galactica until it jumped the shark. Yeah, I really enjoyed Firefly. I think the writing in that was a lot of fun. There's one of the, which is it Stargate with there's one version of Stargate where they're actually on a starship that they found someplace.
Stargate Atlantis.
Yeah, right. And I thought that was, I watch these on Netflix, and unfortunately that kind of exposes any flaws in the writing when you're watching episode after episode after episode. And I noticed after a while that, okay, it's cool writing, you got good characters, stuff like that, but really, it's like every episode is, the can opener broke. Oh, we figured out a way to fix it. And that's kind of, it's like over and over again. Oh, this happened, and this is not, we're going to starve to death, and stuff like that. So I found that I just wish that it had been more of a serial and not quite so much of a series. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Going off on the entire Stargate thing.
Uh-huh.
Who's your favorite character in the entire Stargate series and why?
Okay, well, I've only watched that one. I tried to watch earlier versions of it, and I kind of. Because particularly some of the earlier incarnations was a lot of steely-eyed heroes and. Oh my God, we got tired of hearing you. It's just a little bit much for me. So, but I like the Stargate universe. I like who's the kind of the suit lady, who's representative of the corporation or something like that.
I'm not really sure. I tried to watch Stargate Universe, but I couldn't get into it.
Okay. Well, the thing I thought that they did a good job of and set up, and I wish that they'd explored this more, was this kind of tension between the guys who kind of took the starship because the aliens were attacking and they had to get out of there, and there's kind of, I'm just interested in saving my people, and then the corporation saying, yeah, well, we need to get the starship back and make money and stuff like that. There was a lot of, I really enjoy, in all storytelling, I enjoy moral ambiguity. I enjoy when characters are faced with decisions that have no clear answer, and and particularly when you have two people on two sides of a decision where both of them, no matter which way you go, it's going to be not optimal. I think that is really good. I love the writing in Deadwood. I love the writing in Rome. I don't know if you saw that HBO series. I love the writing in The Sopranos. Some of those are just excellent character development. And what Battlestar Galactica had for about 3 seasons or maybe 3.5 seasons was this wonderfully morally ambiguous universe where the good guys seemed had real flaws, and the bad guys actually had something to say. And I think that's the most engaging for me, because morality plays are fun because the good guys win and the bad guys lose, and it's all very cut and dry and clear and stuff, but that's not the way the real world works. So,
One more question.
Okay, all right. I don't think you've actually asked a question, Kim.
Did you approach Valve, or did Valve approach you?
Valve approached my agent.
Okay.
And my agent sent the auditions out to me, and of course the interesting thing is I auditioned and they hired me, and Ellen auditioned and they hired her, and they had no idea we were married because she goes by Ellen McLain until, we did all of Half-Life 2, and then Team Fortress 2, and I think we were doing one of the episodes or something like that, when finally they found out that we were married to each other. And so then they thought that was funny, so they had us come in and be the bickering married couple at the end of Left 4 Dead. So. All right, so I need to go do the Tetris tournament, right?
Yeah, the Tetris tournament. Let me double check on that. Yeah.
Well, I know.
Okay.
I was asking you because I wanted to include you in the conversation. But thanks so much for coming by, guys. And I'm doing this Tetris thing, and I'm doing, I forget, voice actors. If you're interested in voice acting, there's going to be a couple of voice acting panels today that I'm going to be involved in. And then we're doing Voice-a-Palooza tomorrow and one other thing tomorrow. But then I have a table down in the vending area when I'm not doing panels. I'll be down there selling my book, and come on by. And I have a great artwork of GlaDOS and the sniper eating breakfast and GlaDOS reading my novel. So that Ellen is autographed and that I will autograph for you. So come by. All right.